We Are Here, a podcast produced by St. Bonaventure, Franciscan Conventuals, and now to We Are Here. Well, we want to welcome everyone who's listening or watching to the first podcast of the Conventual Franciscans, done here at Marytown in our little made-up studio. And today I have Father Benedict, director of Marytown, and he's in charge of what we might almost call a ghost town at the moment. So I'm just going to give you the insight of where we're at and what we're doing.
Yeah, I think you sort of hit the nail on the head. It very much is a ghost town at the moment, and for a place that is very much Monday to Sunday a bustling metropolis of a building, it's quite eerie to see the corridors all empty. It's very sad to see the chapel empty, of course, the doors locked, the gift shop closed, and the Friars are just here really on our own. There's a couple of essential staff members, but that's really about it for the time being. And in a sense, we're kind of enjoying a little bit of peace and quiet, but we're just hoping that it, in that sense, it doesn't last too long, because we need the people to be here. This Marytown is, yes, built for the Friars. Well, it's here for the Friars, but it's especially here for the people of God as a shrine, as a national shrine of St. Maximin and Colby. It's very difficult for us to minister at a shrine when we have no people to minister to. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it seems like when we're getting things together and trying to do the Mass online and stuff like that, it almost felt like I was getting busier when things were actually winding down here, just a couple of days ago.
Indeed, yes.
And I know I saw your face, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I got to talk to the staff. How are we going to do this at home? How are they going to work from home? And I mean, there's a lot of worries that came with this, and I think for everyone. So it's not like the Friars all of a sudden have this religious, spiritual bliss where God is taking care of us. He is, but
Well, in the book of Job we read, "The Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." And I'm kind of feeling that at the moment, because it has been an incredibly stressful couple of weeks. But the Lord then sort of taketh away, but then He also giveth, in the sense that, like yourself and most of the Friars here, we're keeping up with the perpetual adoration. So I'm actually able to do 2 holy hours every day, which is remarkable in itself. I do a holy hour in the morning and a holy hour in the afternoon, and that is the Lord's way of giving me time to just chill with Him in the chapel. So that way I just go to the chapel, I try to even physically and mentally and spiritually just keep everything outside the chapel doors that are affecting me and affecting the business of Marytown, and I just spend those 2 hours in the morning and afternoon just with Him. So it's incredible how grace works sometimes, isn't it? There is all these worries about staffing, and you when you're running a business, so to speak, you've got to worry about things like income. There are no people, there are no collections, the doors are closed, therefore no candles being lit, the gift shop is closed. All these things that keep actually Marytown running, and also keep the Friars going as well. It's all shut down, as it is all over the United States, with parishes with their doors closed. But I think the grace of being religious, and particularly Franciscan Friars, is that, especially here at Marytown with perpetual adoration, we have that avenue, thanks be to God, that we can just sort of, take everything to the Lord and say, Lord, I give this to you, I surrender it to you, I abandon it to you, because I really, on my own, I'm completely incapable of looking after this.
Yeah, it's I have a new respect, I think, for those adorers in the middle of the night. I mean, I always did. I was like, especially Brother Donnie, he's always kept that 3 o'clock hour, and now I have the 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and I come in and see Father Roman, and he's barely got his eyes open. I barely got my eyes open because I've had a few hours sleep beforehand, go through my holy hour, and here comes Brother Donnie, who seems to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. He's been doing it for decades, and I'm just like, okay, I'm going back to bed. But I am grateful too to be with the Lord. I mean, the times I spent in the chapel to try to grab a holy hour we're always interrupted. And I'm not saying this is necessarily a bad thing, but the people out there were like, Father, can you bless us? Father, can you pray for me? Father, can I talk to you? And I think it's funny as I look back at it, because they have ingenious ways of coming up to me. I've had, where I was on the end pew, and I've had people come on their knees along here and all of a sudden pop their head up and say, Father, and I'm just freaking out here. Or I'll pick another spot in the front choir stall there, and they'll do the same thing. They'll crawl up and all of a sudden pop their head up in front of me, and Father, can you do? And I was like, ah. So I take the back choir stall, and all of a sudden they come from behind you and whisper in your ear, Father, Father, can I talk?
Yes, and that is so true. And it's really now that we have no one in the chapel that we kind of notice that even more, or even in a sense miss it so much too. It is heartbreaking for us to see no people in the chapel, and thankfully we as a community. We don't need to say Mass on our own. We have the community Mass every single day, which of course is being live streamed as well. We have our regular, hours that we do during the day with officer readings and morning prayer in the morning, which is all live streamed. People can join us from home, and evening prayer, Vespers at 5 o'clock. We have the daily recitation of the Holy Rosary at 7 o'clock in the evening. So all these things we continue. We've always had them, but they kind of have a greater significance now that we know we're sort of purposefully and intentionally praying, especially for those people who are watching through the live stream as well. So that kind of gets us motivated, I suppose, is the main thing.
Yes, yeah. And that's the other subject that we kind of broached too, was how do we feed the people more than just the Mass? You're not here for confessions now. You're not here for the daily recitation of the Holy Hour, Rosary, Divine Mercy, Chaplet. I mean, we can do these things online when we're able to, but we're also still kind of taking and maintaining Marytown by ourselves, more or less. But I think Father Benedict and I were talking about your Thursday night Lenten service and saying, can we continue something like that online or through this podcast possibly? So that's I don't know if that's a possibility or...
Well, yes, I mean, if we can maybe use this podcast even just, for sort of, like a little mini catechesis or something like that, I think that will be great as well. Praying a mini catechesis and just sort of talking about our lives. I know there are so many people sending us messages through Facebook, our Facebook page, Messenger, emailing us, on Twitter as well. And they're just they're actually, mostly they're encouraging us, which is the beautiful thing, and just saying, look, we really appreciate everything the Friars do. We appreciate it even more now. So I think it's nice of us to sort of give that little bit back if we possibly can. That would be great. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a little break here, and we'll be back in a moment or so.
Hi, and welcome. I'm Steph Santa, manager of the Marytown Gift Shop. Despite our gift shop doors being closed at this time, please know our gift shop online store is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our gift shop here at Marytown offers many inspirational and tangible reminders of our Catholic faith. Whether it be rosaries, books, statues, jewelry, crucifixes, or Lenten Easter items for both adults and children, we have a wonderful selection of choices. With the uncertain dates of many sacraments and celebrations of the Church, now is the time to be prepared and purchase your religious items, especially for communion and confirmation. When you purchase from the Marytown Gift Shop, you offer valuable support and encouragement to the Conventual Franciscan Friars and help them in various apostolates and good works they provide to the Church, both at large and on the local scale. You assist them in serving Christ and the people of God. And for that assistance found in every purchase you make, we thank you and ask you to continue to count on us here at Marytown for all your Catholic goods and gift needs. Simply log on to marytowngiftshop.com and place your order. On behalf of the Friars and staff, be assured that you and your families are in our prayers. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Okay, back again, and Father Benedict and I were discussing how we've kind of experience the Eucharist in a different way through the parishioner's eyes. And so I'm kind of going to jet back to last Sunday's gospel reading and his experience at Mass and about the Eucharist.
It was quite, I think, providential that the gospel was that very long gospel from John, I think chapter 9, verses 1 to 41, if I'm not mistaken, the curing of the blind man. And we purposely proclaimed the much longer, the longer version, the proper version of the gospel, because, the good people who are watching our live stream are really sort of hungering for the word of God, so I didn't want to shorten it any. But one of the interesting things with the doors closed at Marytown is that those main doors that are closed, the chapel, because there's just this little slit of space between the two doors and where the lock is as well. And so as I was at the altar, from the moment of the offertory and then throughout the consecration, I could actually see shadows. So people were obviously coming to the doors and they were trying to look in or maybe see if the church would be open. We had plenty of signs explaining to them why the church was closed. But the most fascinating thing that happened, and getting back to the gospel as well about blindness and spiritual blindness, and then of course the cure of all that, is that right at the moment that I started doing the Eucharistic prayer with all of you concelebrating, is that someone was obviously kneeling right there at the entrance to the chapel, and their eyes were just sort of aligned with that little gap that you can see, and they were literally kneeling there throughout the whole of the consecration. And even though I'm focused obviously on what I'm doing at the altar, but you could not help but see the light coming and going with the people who were, with the person, at least that person who was there kneeling. And I thought, wow, this is really an example of today's gospel, of someone who is, in a sense, there was physical blindness because the doors are closed and therefore they could not physically see. But then with the eyes of faith, they tried every little thing to make sure that they could just get a little glimpse of the Eucharist. And I'm sure there would have been other people behind there because you could see sort of shadows moving. And they, with the eyes of their faith, knew what was happening inside the chapel. And they didn't need to exactly see with their eyes, but they could see with the eyes of the soul exactly what was happening at the altar, that bread and wine were becoming the body and blood, soul and divinity of Jesus Christ. And I think that even creates a greater hunger. Of course, when we fast in normal times, it always sort of exacerbates our hunger, doesn't it? We know we have to fast on Good Friday, and all of a sudden you're hungry on Good Friday. But and it's the same now with the Eucharist. The fact that people are fasting, there's this great Eucharistic fast that's going to be lasting weeks probably. There's a greater hunger for the Eucharist as well, which is why we're getting so many people watching the Holy Mass, even weekday, but especially on Sunday via the live stream. They can see again, but there's this great hunger to receive the Eucharist. And I'm wondering what faith, what church life, what the celebration of the Holy Mass is going to be after this all passes, after the coronavirus passes. My prayer is that even greater numbers will come back to the faith, realizing what they've been missing out on.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic when you hear about people not attending Mass and then kind of maybe coming to say, I've missed this Mass or that Mass, but then you have those that just kind of don't want the Eucharist. And I've heard people who have left the church and there was one thing missing, and it was always the Eucharist. And then there were the people who were like complaining, how can you shut the doors? How can you do that? What are the bishops doing? Well, there's a bigger picture here, of course. But this is a type of fast that, what was his name? Saint Ligore talked about.
Francis de Ligore.
Yeah, Francis. And he talked about sometimes you have to fast from the Eucharist to maybe appreciate it. And boy, I think we're all appreciating it even more. And when I celebrate Mass and lift up the Eucharist, I think about the people that hunger for the Eucharist, to have Jesus spiritually within them and bodily within them. And I know everybody's wanting that and desiring that, and hopefully this is not going to be like a 9/11 where people come rushing to the churches through the problems and pray and help, and then when things are all over, it plateaus out and people kind of fall away or are not as fervent anymore. hopefully you'll always have that hunger once they come back to church and really, really receive and know what they've been missing.
Well, just like I think this virus, this pandemic, is really going to change the face of the whole of human society around the world, especially those countries that have been heavily affected, I think it's really going to affect the face of the church, very much so, after this pandemic. And again, I hope and I pray that the positive result, you could say, probably not the best words to use when you're talking about a virus, but let's just hope that people are able to really appreciate their faith more and more after all of this.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think that's about it for this podcast here, and we're hoping to have some more podcasts on different subjects and just kind of invite you into our home, shall we say, how the Friars doing, what they up to, and gather some of the other Friars and talk about things, and anything from spiritual to the vocations to what maybe the Conventual is doing, and other parishes too throughout our province. So we welcome you to pass this along, and I'm not sure how often we'll get the podcast up, but hopefully at the very least once a week, and maybe every other day or every couple days at the most. So
in the meantime, know that we are all praying for each and every one of you. God bless you all, and thank you, Father Hans, for this great initiative as well. Thank you.
I appreciate you being here and allowing me to do it too. So yes, God bless you all, and we'll be waiting to hear from you, and maybe we'll even open up some email contacts so you can ask us, some questions live or something like that. God bless. See you next time.
God bless.
We Are Here is a podcast produced by St. Bonaventure Province of the Franciscan Conventuals of the United States. Our theme song for this podcast is Soulful Bluesy Jam, taken from the royalty-free album Instrumentals for TV Productions, Podcasts, Movies, and Jingles, purchased through Amazon.com. You can find our podcast at FranciscanCommunity.com and ColbyShrine.org. And if you are a practicing Catholic male between the ages of 18 and 40, interested in learning more about our Franciscan conventual life, contact me, Father Hans Flandor, at friarvocations@gmail.com.